Whoa, I nearly fell over, that was embarrassing. Hello, you join me here at Flixton station on the Cheshire Line between Manchester Piccadilly and Liverpool Lime Street. In this series, I'm looking at every station between Liverpool Lime Street and Manchester. There's two ways to get between Liverpool and Manchester: the Cheshire Lines, which is the lines that we're on at the moment, and the Northern Chatmoss line, which goes via Eccles and Newton Willows and places like that. So far in this series, I've looked at the stations between Liverpool Lime Street and here at Flixton, via stations such as Liverpool South Parkway, Widnes and Warrington Central. In the last episode, we looked at the stations between Warrington Central and here at Flixton, and today I'm continuing on and finishing the Cheshire Lines. We're going to end the video at Manchester Piccadilly, the end, the sort of end point of the Cheshire Lines. So without further ado, let's have a look at the sequence of the Cheshire Lines, the Liverpool to Manchester Lines, between here at Flixton all the way to Manchester Piccadilly. Now, I have already done and looked at Flixton Station, so do watch the last episode if you haven't done so already. If you haven't watched any of the episodes, the playlist will be in the link in the description below. Do make sure you watch the first 3 parts of this mini-series. But yeah, I'm not going to talk much about Flixton Station. There's not much to talk about. It's a 2-platform station managed by Northern, and it doesn't really have anything of note, except it does have a ticket office, which a lot of the other stations don't on this line, despite having barely any passengers using it, and it has a gorgeous original old footbridge. So yeah, I'm not going to talk about Flixton in depth. Instead, we're going to go to the next station down the line, which I can literally see from Flixton, it's that close, which is Chassen Road. So let's go there. Right, welcome to Chassen Road station. Now you might be wondering, why haven't I got a train? Because I've walked here from Urmston, which is the next station down the line. This station gets such an infrequent service that I'd have to get a train and wait here for like 2 hours. And so my train's in about 10 minutes, which luckily it's just enough time to rattle through the facts about Chassen Road, because if I'm being honest, there's not much to say about it. The station opened on the 10th of September 1934, so it was far after the original line opened in the 1870s. Now this station is also staffed, and in the previous episode I spoke about how Flixton Station and a few of the other stations along the line, which were very rural, were staffed, but stations like Urmston, which is one of the big stations along the line, wasn't staffed. And this is another station which only gets one train every 2 hours, but it's staffed Monday to Friday until lunchtime, I believe, which just seems like a complete waste of resources. The station does have different architecture compared to the other stations because it was built that much later, about 50 years after the line was opened, about 60 actually. It has a very small little, quite cute brick ticket office, but apart from that there's no station building here. It's just 2 shelters and some platforms. It's very basic. The station itself is located close to Trafford FC and Humphrey Park and Golf Club. There's a park literally just outside the station which has a miniature railway going around it. I don't know anything about that miniature railway. I don't know if it's like a public thing, if you can get on it. I don't know. You have to let me know in the comments below. Have you been on the Chassen Road miniature railway in the park outside? Let me know. But in the meantime, it's time to go to the next station down the line, which is Urmston. I have just been there 10 minutes ago, but it's time to go back there on this train, which is due in about 5 minutes. So yeah, let's go to Urmston and have a look around there. Welcome to Urmston. Remind me to never make another video again, because I mean, what is this? It's so rainy and I don't know how my camera's surviving. I'll take my hood off so that you can see me. Oh, it's horrible. But yeah, Urmston station. This is one of the larger stations, and probably the largest station in today's video outside of the Manchester 3. But yeah, the weather gods have not been on our side. It's just started chucking it down. And it's not nice, but if I'm being honest, Urmston is nice. It seems like a very quaint little place. But yeah, this is the larger of the 3 stations, which are in like the 1.5 mile radius here. Basically between Flixton and here at Urmston, there are like, well, there's 3 stations: Flixton, Chassen Road and Urmston, and they're all very close to each other. And this is the largest station. It gets Transparent Express services call here. So it gets 2 trains an hour in each direction, usually. One to Manchester, one to Liverpool, by Northern and Transpennine. The station here opened in September of 1873 and the original building survives, but is now a pub. It was replaced, well, I say replaced, it got a new ticket office in the 1990s. I don't actually know why this was, but it's now got step-free access, and yeah, it's got a new ticket office, and the station building is now, yeah, a pub restaurant. Station is staffed Monday to Saturday, and the town of Urmston itself has a population of 41,000 and was a symbolic birthplace of the NHS. The first NHS hospital was here. It was Trafford General Hospital nearby to the station, but this was where Bevan opened the very first NHS hospital, inaugurated the NHS here. He cut the tape and said the NHS is open at a hospital here in Urmston. I need to get under shelter. My camera's not going to survive. Let's go to the next station. Hopefully it stops raining. It will do because I've already been there, if I'm being honest. This is the last station I'm doing today. I've already been to Humphrey Park, which is the next station, and it's not raining. So it's going to magically get dry when we get to Humphrey Park. So let's get a train in about 5 minutes to Humphrey Park. I'm going to Manchester on it, but we'll pretend it's going to Humphrey Park. See you in a sec. Right, hello, welcome to Humphrey Park station, which, well, I think it's probably the worst station on this whole line between Liverpool and Manchester. It is, well, firstly, there's not much going on. I mean, it's just 2 platforms. Facilities-wise, there's not much, and well, if it's raining, you're either going to have to stand in the shelter, which doesn't have a roof on it and is fenced off, or the shelter which is held up precariously by scaffolding. So clearly a lot of TLC has gone to this station by Northern. There are these little like pictures of, I don't know, just generic countryside. I guess they were like, well, we've got to do something, right? Yeah, the station is, there's nothing here, and it is quite a modern station actually. The station here actually opened in October 1984 by British Rail as an experimental station. I think it was at the time where British Rail were reopening some stations following the Beeching Acts, and they wanted to open new stations in new housing areas. So I guess the experimental part was that it was done so cheaply that it was basically just 2 platforms. And done as cheaply as possible, and that was the experimental part of it. I guess the experiment worked because it's still open. I don't know how many stations were actually built like this one at Humphrey Park. Probably a few, but not loads. But this was during the time when British Rail tried to increase passenger numbers by just building stations which were in areas that weren't previously served by the railways. Obviously it's unstaffed, it only gets 1 train every 2 hours. And an underpass links the 2 platforms. If I'm being honest, yeah, this is a dull one. This is probably the worst of the lot. The only station I haven't been to is Trafford Park, which is the next station. So I guess that one could be worse, but I think just the way this station is just, it feels like nobody cares for it anymore. You know, the shelter over there, just gone. It's depressing, really. But you do get a very good view of trains passing because you can get very low to the tracks when you're walking down the ramps. So I guess it is step-free access, which is good. But yeah, again, another station on this line which only gets 1 train every 2 hours, despite being in quite a residential area. You sort of feel that it's a sort of, if you build it, they will come. You know, if you give it services, maybe people will start using it again. There's no bench in this shelter. The shelter on the other side has a bench, but this one doesn't. At least it has a dot matrix display. Humphrey Park itself is named after a park. When I say park, it's sort of just a little piece of grass with some children's playing equipment on it. I wouldn't call it a park. But yeah, that's literally it. I have half an hour here. What are you meant to do at Humphrey Park for half an hour? I don't know. But I'll save you the wait by teleporting you half an hour ahead to when I get on the train to the next station down the line, and the penultimate station before we start hitting the stations in central Manchester, and that is Trafford Park. So let's go there. Welcome to Trafford Park, where I don't actually have a train back towards Manchester from here. I think I'm going to have to get a bus or something, or I might get a bus to Urmston and then get a train, because this station, like Humphrey Park, only gets one train every 2 hours. But it's a bit more interesting. It has a station building which is not in railway use. I believe it was taken out of railway use in the late 2000s, early 2010s. It's now like a wellbeing centre. It also has this fabulous old looking underpass, which is clearly original from when the station opened, and the platforms are generally a little bit nicer. Well, both platforms have got shelters, which is a start over Humphrey Park, but also what's nearby is more interesting, and we'll talk about that in this shelter up here. Station here opened on the 4th of January 1904 as Trafford Park before, and Stretford suffix was added, but then removed later in May 1974. So it used to be called Trafford Park and Stretford, but now just Trafford Park. We are in, who would have guessed it, the Trafford area of Manchester. There is a canal junction nearby called the Waters Meeting Canal. I would go to it, but it is raining, and if I'm being honest, I don't want to walk too far. There is a lot of old freight lines around here, because very close is the Trafford Park International Freight Depot, which is a Freightliner freight depot. I think it sees like up to 20 trains a week or something, or maybe even a day. It gets a lot of freight usage just east of Trafford Park Station. Massive freight terminal, and there's lots of old abandoned railway lines which branch off, which were closed only 10 to 15 years ago, which used to go into the industrial areas of Trafford Park. Trafford Park itself is very inner city. There's a lot of industry around here, and there still is a lot of like distribution centres and other places. And there's a lot of old rail lines which like still go over the roads and are still technically open, I think. I'm not sure they've been formally closed by Network Rail. They're not maintained, they're basically abandoned, but I'm not sure if they are technically still classified as being open. I think one of them went down to Barton Road Dock, and there's a piece of track which goes over the road by the Kellogg's factory, which is just awesome. I'll put some Google Street View photos. It's just a little too far to walk to today, plus it's raining. Now, the Manchester International Freight Terminal has been in hot discussion recently about its future, because Manchester United want to move the stadium, build a completely new stadium on the site of the freight terminal, and the plan, if it went ahead or goes ahead, would be to move the freight terminal a little bit out of Manchester and then move Old Trafford, or build a new stadium in where the freight terminal is today. But I'm not sure if that's got any progress really. I don't think the mayor particularly supports it, or it would cost a lot of money to move the freight terminal out there. But there are reasons why it's not going ahead as quick as possible. Also, it would cost like billions of pounds. Manchester United have to pay that up. I don't know if they can do that at the moment. The next station down the line is technically not Deansgate. Deansgate is the next stopping station, but there is the Manchester United football ground station, which closed in 2017, December 2017, due to safety concerns by the football club. Now, I'm not going to look at that station today. I'm going to look at that when I look at the Trafford Centre Metrolink line. I'm going to do a whole video about the Trafford Centre line, the newest line on the Metrolink, and we're going to have a look at all the stops on that. And that's when we'll look at the old Trafford railway station, which closed informally in December 2017. It's not properly shut. It's just all services have been suspended. So yeah, I sort of just want to get out of the rain. There's not much to talk about at Trafford Park. We've got 3 more stations to go, and they are all part of the Manchester Station Group: Deansgate, Oxford Road and Piccadilly. Those are the 3 left in today's video. And I will say now, little warning, I'm not going to go hugely in depth about these 3 stations. This whole purpose of me visiting every station between Liverpool and Manchester on both lines is not to have a look at Liverpool or Manchester. We know about those places. It's about what's in between. It's about the little stations like, well, this, which isn't entirely interesting, but it's about looking at the really cool stations like we looked at in the last episode, Earlham and Glazebrook, these tiny little cute stations which, you know, you might have never really noticed before. That's what this series is about. So we are going to look at Deansgate, Oxford Road and Piccadilly, but we're not really going to go hugely in depth into them. But nevertheless, the next station is Deansgate. I'll see you at some point somewhere at Deansgate Station. Hello, welcome to a rather manic Deansgate station. It's rainy, it's busy, the trains are all being delayed and cancelled. I don't actually know why, but they are. Yeah, welcome to Deansgate. We're now properly in Manchester. This is one of the 4 Manchester stations in the Manchester group. The others are, of course, Oxford Road, Piccadilly and Victoria. We'll be covering Oxford Road and Piccadilly later in the video. Deansgate Station originally opened on the 20th of July 1849, known as Knott Mill and Deansgate. The station was a through station and was very basic until September 1896, when the station was completely rebuilt to a fully brick building, the one that stands to this day, with the name Knott Mill Station chosen. The name wasn't really called Deansgate at this point, it was just called Knott Mill, and that was the name which is still on the front of the station building, just above where the current Deansgate Station sign lies. In 1931, the station was electrified, and in 1969, services to the nearby Manchester Central Station closed, and in 1992, Metrolink services started from what was then known as GMEX and is now known as Deansgate Castlefield tram stop. Deansgate Station itself is pretty basic, as you can see. It's got a big shelter, it's only got 2 platforms, there's not a lot going on, but it does see up to 12 trains an hour stopping at the station, 6 trains an hour in each direction, with a further 11 trains an hour passing through the station, giving it basically 24 trains an hour passing through or stopping per hour, 12 in each direction. We're now at the point, we're just past the Deansgate junction, which is where the Windsor Link line from Salford, the line from Victoria and the line from Liverpool come and link and join together from Deansgate to run through what is known as the Castlefield corridor from here at Deansgate through to Manchester Piccadilly. This is one of the most congested parts of the rail network anywhere in the UK, and the delays are pretty common along here. Like today, where basically every train's delayed. I don't actually know why, but it's not good for trains today at Deansgate. A lot of delays, very congested. A lot of services as well. Northern have services to Blackpool, to Liverpool via both different lines. Also services as far as Barrow and Windermere, and then TransPennine, East Midlands Railway and Transport for Wales all pass through. And in the other direction, services go towards Manchester Airport. But Deansgate as itself, as an area, has been regenerated hugely in the last 10 to 15 years. There's so many skyscrapers here now. The whole area feels a bit like a gentrified London borough. It feels very, upmarket and quite nice, if I'm being honest with you. To simplify the history of the area around here, very industrial, lots of canals, and there's still a lot of old buildings around here. There is an old Roman fort, the Mancunian fort. The National Trust has a garden on one of the old viaducts which went to Manchester Central. Has some of Manchester's tallest buildings, with up to 26 buildings over 150 metres planned in Manchester by 2030 and 70 over 100 metres. Manchester is truly turning into the skyscraper city of the north, with so many skyscrapers planned. Sort of brushed through Deansgate a bit, but apologies for that. It's now time to go to Manchester Oxford Road, which is the penultimate station in today's video, so let's go there.
The next station stop is Manchester Oxford Road.
Hello, welcome to Oxford Road. It is really rainy here and I am sitting in the shelter on platform 1 because no trains ever use this platform because there's no step-free access. Anyway, Oxford Road, this is one of the big stations. It's one of the big 3, I would say. Oxford Road, Piccadilly and Victoria, and then Deansgate is another station in the Manchester group. This is the 3rd busiest station in Manchester, and it sees a lot of trains. Northern, TransPennine, East Midlands, Transport for Wales, gets a lot of services. It is really teaming it down now. I'm so glad I'm in this shelter. Now, Oxford Road Station originally opened on the 20th of July 1849 as an intermediate stop on the Manchester South Junction and Altrincham Railway. Construction of the station and the Castlefield Viaduct, which the line sits on, commenced in the mid-1840s, designed by David Bellhouse, with originally Manchester Oxford Road having just 2 platforms and being made of wood. The site was constructed adjacent to Oxford Road, the road itself, with the station creating Little Island, which was a 4-acre slum which housed predominantly Irish immigrants, which Engels wrote about when he was staying in Manchester, and that helped to form the Communist Manifesto and Marx's writings. The station was expanded twice in the 19th century, in 1857 and 1874, with the latter upgrade featuring more substantial platforms and less wooden construction. In the later 1950s, Manchester Oxford Road was completely rebuilt by W.R. Headley from 1958 to 1960, with British Rail hoping to modernise the station and increase capacity. 4 through platforms were rebuilt and 1 bay platform, with the station Grade 2 listed in 1995. The reopened station featured a large timber construction with an increase in commuter travel following the closure of Manchester Central and an increase in suburban and regional services following the conversion of the Ultron line to Metrolink. In 1988, the Windsor Link opened, which connected Salford Crescent to Oxford Road, which meant that services were able to run through Piccadilly and Salford towards Blackpool, Wigan and the North West as well as Scotland, with Manchester Oxford Road also receiving a light refurbishment during this time. The station will, in the next few years, fully close for at least 2 years to completely remodel the station. The number of through platforms will drop from 4 to 2, with the bay platform moved to the middle. At the moment, platform 5's off towards the left of Oxford Road. Now it's going to be moved to the centre between the 2 through platforms. The streamlined station design will be more accessible and will allow up to 8 carriage trains to serve Oxford Road. Currently this is just 6 carriages, whilst moving the terminating platform to the middle will reduce times taken by trains to enter and leave the terminus bay platform. The station will close for 2 years from around 2027, it's believed, but services will still pass through the station, so the Castleford corridor will still remain open. Station design will remain with the wood effects. I think the station building is staying. It's Grade 2 listed, of course, with the platforms also being much wider than before. So that is something to, I guess, look forward to, or if you're like me and Manchester Oxford Road is usually your local station, something to sort of be a bit annoyed at because I'm going to lose my local station for 2 years. Now I could talk all day about what's around Oxford Road. It's got a very industrial past, but now it's being regenerated. The road itself is about a 15-minute walk from the 2 universities, Manchester Metropolitan and the University of Manchester, and it lies pretty close to St Peter's Square, where the library is and sort of the centre of Manchester. But yeah, I could spend all day talking about the history of Manchester Oxford Road and the area, but I feel as though that isn't super interesting. We're more here for the different stations. So talking about the different stations, maybe it's time to go to the last station on the Cheshire Lines. This has taken a long time to go to every station between Liverpool and Manchester Piccadilly, but we've done it, and we're only halfway there because we've got the other stations to do on the northern branch, the Chat Moss line. So without further ado, let's go to Piccadilly and yeah, have a look at a brief history of Piccadilly. I won't go too in depth, and yeah, let's go to Manchester Piccadilly.
Manchester Piccadilly, where this train terminates.
I don't even know how to describe this. There's nothing here. At the time that I'm filming this, Manchester Piccadilly is closed apart from platforms 13 and 14 because of engineering works, and there's nothing here. I've never seen it so quiet. It's so eerie. So basically the whole station's blocked off. Like I can't go anywhere. I can't go past there. I got told off trying to walk down platform 14 or 13 or whatever it is, and they're like, no, you can't come this far. I was like, okay, whatever. What do you think I was going to do? Yeah, it's very eerie. Right, so I found a quiet part of the station which I'm allowed to go to, I hope, just by the stairs to get up to platforms 13 and 14. So let's have a little chat about Piccadilly's history, because this grand old station, which is currently empty, has a very impressive past. It is, of course, the last station in today's video as well, and the last station on the Cheshire Lines. Well, it wasn't technically opened by the Cheshire Lines. I believe it was opened by the Manchester and Birmingham Railway, but the station was served by Cheshire Line services, and of course still is served by services on the Cheshire Lines. Very brief rundown. Largest station in Manchester, there's 14 platforms and 2 Metrolink platforms. It opened in 1842 as Store Street. In 1847 it was renamed to London Road, rebuilt in 1861, expanded in 1881, renovated and renamed Piccadilly in 1960 before receiving its most recent renovations in 2002. The original Store Street station had just 2 platforms and was 9 metres above ground level and had services to crew only. George Buck, who designed the Stockport Viaduct, designed Store Street Station, with the station being renamed in 1847 to London Road, whilst a new platform just south of the station was constructed to serve the line through Oxford Road, the Cheshire Lines, which is now the platforms 13 and 14, which we all know and love to this day. In 1862, the station was drastically expanded with a new entrance building and train shed over the terminus, the one that's here today, with more platforms added in the 1880s, and in 1899 services to London commenced. In the 20th century, London Road was at capacity, with a new terminus at Manchester Mayfield opening just south, with 4 new platforms. which were linked by a footbridge. However, this station closed in 1960 to passenger traffic. In the late 1950s, British Rail were electrifying the whole of the West Coast Main Line in what was known as the West Coast Main Line Modernisation Plan, and Piccadilly was electrified at this point. And also saw other upgrades, including the name change from London Road to Manchester Piccadilly, named after the nearby Piccadilly Gardens, with £50 million spent on preparing the station for electrification, which finished by 1966. A new approach was built with a new station building in 1966 as well, and in 1989 platforms 13 and 14 were lengthened, completely renovated and rebuilt due to the opening of the aforementioned Windsor link, which allowed services to go through to Salford and beyond Scotland. Whilst also in preparation for the Commonwealth Games, which were coming to Manchester and came to Manchester in 2002. The station is above Fairfield Street, so directly below me is where the Metrolink platform is. Speaking of Metrolink, the platform's opened there in 1992. I've already covered that in a previous video. And the station sees around 40 trains an hour, with Avanti, Cross Country, East Midlands Railway, Northern, Transpennine, Transport for Wales, all serving the station across the North West, Midlands, Wales and down to London. HS2 was of course supposed to come here to Piccadilly with a completely new station. Well, we don't know if it was in Piccadilly, but we believe it would have been somewhere in Manchester and potentially at Piccadilly, potentially an underground station as well. But yeah, it was meant to go until Rishi Sunak cancelled that in October 2023. However, a new station could still open as part of the Northern Powerhouse project. There's rumours that there could be a new underground station here at Manchester, or maybe at the airport or somewhere else. But yeah, the Labour government might bring back Northern Powerhouse Rail, which was a new high-speed line all the way across the north from Manchester, Liverpool over to like Hull and York and Newcastle along there, so we'll have to stay tuned for that. But yeah, that's about it. I am still getting over the fact that there's nobody here apart from Network Rail engineers, and I feel like I shouldn't be here, but I haven't been told off just yet. Regardless though, I think this is probably where we should end this video. 4 parts in, and we've covered all of the Cheshire Line from Liverpool Lime Street to Manchester Piccadilly via Warrington Central. Next, in the next few parts, we'll cover the Northern, the Chatmoss line, which goes via like Eccles, Newton Le Willows, and a few other places, Wavertree, and then into Liverpool Lime Street that way. And then we will have done every station between Manchester and Liverpool. But yeah, we finished it off today. We're starting off next episode at Manchester Victoria. So if you have enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, maybe even turn on notifications so you don't miss when I upload another one of these videos. But yeah, I hope you have enjoyed this 4th part of my secrets of the Liverpool to Manchester lines. Check out my Discord server, Twitter and Blue Sky, all in the links in the description below. Check out my membership for exclusive access to videos early and exclusive members only videos. As little as 99p per month. It helps to support me and helps to make videos like this possible. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye. And of course, a huge thank you to my YouTube and Patreon members, including my first class members Aaron Barry, Crispin McKee, JBNEL and Phil Smith. My business owned members Andrew Bowen, Anthony James Moore, ARK, Conor Gregg, Clive's Travelling Trains, Daniel Burford, Dave CDF, JTecho, Gallia Lewis C21, NJTE, Ollie G, OVTUG Alex, Real, SZWL, Train Life GB, Tom Kennedy, Welsh Train Enthusiast, Will Ho and Zach Renfrey, as well as my standard premium and standard class members. I really appreciate your support and you help to make these videos possible. Thank you. Once again, thanks for watching. Check out my Discord server, Twitter and Blue Sky in the links in the description below, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.